Welcome back to Tools and Track. In the last episode of the Supra, we got the engine in. Now, for those who have been waiting a long time for a locust update, this is a good thing, because what this means is we can now clear all of that, because this is nearly finished.
It's not finished!
But nearly finished does not necessarily mean we've got a couple of wee things to do and it's done. There's a mountain of reconnection to be done. Granted, the engine's landed, the box is in as well, but, well, everything else. So, whilst I have ramp time, remember we still have an issue with the ramp next door, I want to get as much done on this that I need the ramp for, in case after this weekend it needs to come back off again, and it just ends up stranded. So, things that we need to do underneath the car. We need to reinstate the clutch, we need to reinstate this, anti-roll bar. We need to get the prop on, we need to sort the exhaust out. We need to... It looks like this. Here's the sit rep. We were going to film it all and then we didn't because we were like the sun's out, right, and it's Friday night, so we were like, let's just do a couple of bits and it's basically nearly done. So we've got all the pulley drive nonsense on here, we've got the aircon nonsense on, power steering nonsense, basically all the nonsense. We've also got him, who's been... Give us a song.
Hey.
Right, so what we still need to do is intercooler, which will need a wee blowout, and all the other bits and gubbins and hoses connected and whatnot. So, I don't know. Then we do just need to start it. So I've pre-emptied this and bought some shitey 530 diesel oil, just to get it turned over. We've got plenty of ATF to fill that up. I've got plenty of coolant. The only thing I'll need to look and see if we've got gearbox oil, because if you remember correctly, I might have dumped it all on the floor. Other than that, I don't think we need anything else, fluid-wise. I've got a feeling though, like I started this earlier on, I was like, oh, there's something that's going to really stop me doing it. I can't remember what it is, but it's something. So, anyway, montage. So we're at the bit now where I'm going to put oil in. Now this doesn't mean we're finished, but we've got to a point where we might crank this tonight, just to see if it makes oil pressure. And one of the critical elements of making oil pressure is oil, which up to this point I've been like, we'll get around to it. No, it needs oil immediately. So, oil in the road. And I'll hold this oil canister so in a position that nobody will see where it came from. But it's 530 diesel oil, the reason being it's nice and thick, and it'll stay in places and help things. Okay, we have oil. It is midnight. Do you know where your children are? So this has gone well. As you can see, we are having a controlled bleed after testing fluids. We have power steering fluid, well, I say that, engine fan fluid and power steering fluid in, holding okay, filled that with coolant, and we are now not holding coolant. There's a pinhole in the rad right there. which is quite probably from the rad sitting in the boot for many a moon, shuffled about, stuff getting thumped on it. It's going to happen, things break. Problem is, we can't really do much in the way of firing this car up and testing it if it's going to push fluid. So the options are rad weld, or we can just swap it out. I think I'm just going to get a new radiator for it, because all of this going wrong because of a stupid radiator issue, not going to happen. So pinning it now, but tomorrow I reckon we're going to come back onto this and try for oil pressure and see what happens. Now, just to clarify, pardon the noise everyone, I had an amount on here that covered the hole.
You didn't get the sides?
No, but yeah, apparently that's not good enough. You need to basically build a new bloody radiator with the stuff.
Full coverage.
Alright. 2 hours to set, and then we'll see what it does. The hour is upon us, so the first thing we need to do, you'll note we don't, oh no we do, there we go, oil pressure warning light. Let's see if we can get this to turn off. No.
Don't see any oil yet.
I also don't see any oil pressure warning light turning off.
It's going to take a while, it's going to have to...
Yeah. Well, let's just check the oil level. Right, why are we making such a big deal about getting one light to turn off on the dashboard? Well, it's not just a light. Our sump, if you remember, looks a bit like this. Well, actually it looks a lot more complicated than this, but I don't art. So, what we have is the oil pump here and there's a pickup. What we've done so far is fill the sump up to a level where that pickup is submerged in oil. Now, any basic physics understanding means that we will have oil up to this level in the pickup. What we don't have is oil up to the oil pump. So every time we're cranking the engine, this oil pump's spinning, but it's sucking air. The problem with air is it does not compress as well as fluid. So we're maybe only getting oil up to here, and it's not spinning fast enough to get it up to the pump and pressurise the full oil in the engine. So what we need to do here is figure out how to make it faster. That might be tricky. So, genius idea of the day. Daniel San has suggested we take the plugs out. We've been cranking this for a good minute now, and we can't get the oil pressure warning light out. What Daniel has suggested is a good idea. What we have on the cylinder head right now is 6 spark plugs, and they are causing compression in all of the cylinders. Why is that a big deal? Well, it means the starter motor has to fight that compression as well as try and turn this oil pump to start it. Now, if we were to take all of these spark plugs out, there's no more compression to worry about. So this might spin a bit faster, which will get the oil up to the pump. And remember, we need this to happen. If there's no oil around the engine and we actually start the car, we're putting a lot more stress on things that have no lubrication. The assembly lube's only good for so much. Once you run an engine at significant RPM, that's going to burn off and we're going to be dry metal on dry metal. This guy has to get pressure. Thank you, earned a wee shot now. Feel free to crank. I might need to reconnect the battery actually. Yes, I do. This being nowhere near the engine bay is greatly handy. So, oil warning light is there underneath the door open light. Oh yeah. Just spin it, mate, most. I mean, this is worrying.
Should be, it should. It's not spinning very fast to be fair.
We are not catching a break with this oil pressure issue. Even with the plugs out, we just can't seem to get ahead of oil up to the pump. So it's time for some drastic action. If the mountain won't come to Mohammed, so looking from the front this time, oil pump, pickup, sump, right? We have other ways to get oil into this. If we cannot make the pump pick up from the sump, How else do you get oil to it? Feed it down. Now, if this was an old Rover V8 or something similar, it's actually quite easy to do that. You can knock any number of things out, pour oil down into a gallery, and it will actually reach the pump. The problem being the 1JZ, in its inherent well-designed nature, has very little that I can access by taking out a plug and pouring oil into it. I've had a look, I mean, we've had a proper look. The oil filter obviously is horizontally mounted, so it doesn't really work. Also, it's impossible to access now that we've got the inlet manifold on and the subframe on and all the other stuff that blocks the route. Other obvious option is the oil sensor, so that sits behind the oil filter and is even harder to access. Also, the starter motor lives under it and doesn't really cover that in oil if this all goes Pete Tong. However, there is one last thing that I can deal with this with. There's a feed line, or rather, two of them on the side of the block that feed up to the turbochargers. Now those are big banjo fittings. If I take a banjo out and put a line in and fill that up, it is directly fed from the oil galleries. So surely filling that up with oil will eventually bring it down to the pump and at least irrigate it enough, hopefully pass down into the sump and give us that head of fluid that we're looking for. It worked. Obviously we're getting a bit stressed and I'm kind of forgetting to film things because we're just trying to deal with the situation, but we have spun that and the oil light has gone out. So, the moment's here. Genuinely, I've been nervous starting cars in the past for obvious reasons. I've maybe done a couple of bits and bobs. I've never built a fully forged engine before. I've never spent this amount of money building an engine before, and I've never had this much at risk if it all goes Pete Tong. This is just a horror story taking this engine in and out. This just needs to work. I think as well, time has an element to play. This is about a year. In fact, I know it's exactly a year I've been into this because my Facebooky time hop thing popped up and went, ooh, status update about a ship landing. And I still haven't really driven it yet. But if this works, that all changes. And that's almost more exciting than just buying a new car, you know? Anyway, let's turn the key. That was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Usually when I fire on an engine, even if I've only done a head gasket on it, I'm fighting for hours and hours to get the thing to start. This guy just fired up straight away. It just bang and it went. The good news is that gives us time to do the rest of the stuff, which means a lot of other messing around. I'd quite like to take this around the block just to make sure that it actually pulls, but I can't do that until we have brakes, clutch, steering, gearbox oil. The list goes on.
And on.
And on.
And on.
And on.
And Ariston.
He wants the
No,
camera
it's
now.
'cause
He
Daniel
came in and goes,
said that.
is the camera on?
No,
I was like,
it's 'cause
no,
I'm
no,
not, 'cause
but for you,
Daniel
I'll put the camera on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's the
But I
camera.
wanted you to capture Daniel's positivity.
Yeah,
on camera.
yeah, but what? Oh, he's running away now.
Round 2 of get that bonnet in the fucking bin. Look at it. Look at that fucking.
It's not correct.
You cannot put this fucking bonnet on this car.
No.
It's going to be so nice and shiny and green, and it'll be like, oh, it's really nice. And then it's like, oh, let's stick this fucking 90s abomination on it and just fucking ruin the whole look.
Nah, it's not a good bonnet.
I don't approve.
No.
Does anyone else? Nobody else approves of this message either, by the way.
Nobody does,
This
no.
bonnet.
What is wrong with this bonnet?
What's right?
It's a fucking proper 90s carbon bonnet.
We've got them all that way, so we'll need to put this one this way now, so we can have another vent.
Paint it pink.
Do you know what's happened here, right? Somebody in Japan has bought this bonnet, fitted it, and then went, that's fucking horrible. But I've spent 600 quid on this bonnet, so it's staying on the car.
Much like they did with the roll cage, but we'll get to that in a later episode.
They're okay.
The roll cage is also, yeah.
It's
But I
fine if you
don't mind the bonnet.
No, it's not, the roll cage
Like
is the roll cage is
But
good
the
if you've
bonnet-
got one leg.
The original bonnet for this car, the repower build room, it's a good looking bonnet.
Nice,
There's no
clean,
reason to change it.
Nice clean look.
No reason to change it.
Nice clean look.
Yeah.
I agree.
Guys, you could be slightly more supportive. Just,
We're
just
not, we
We're
are.
helping you.
We
We're
are.
being very supportive of you in choosing the wrong bonnet.
Yeah. That's it.
That's what we're doing. We're helping you.
Directing you.
doesn't sound like it. It really doesn't sound like
We're
it.
helping you with your decision making process,
Yeah.
which is wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong.
Yeah.
So you just sometimes you need a gentle nudge, Tommy.
I like it,
You
right?
might end up
Directions.
being forced to just make a decision.
Don't you dare.
Yeah. That's
I'll help you sell your bike. Geezer shot.
Boom.
Oops, I've done a Tommy. I have fallen off every single bike to date. This roll cage is the polar opposite of a safety device. I need to have a think about what we're doing with this before it brains me. Ow.